So in our last lesson, we got a good understanding of a compounding pharmacy versus a research peptide. Now we're going to dive into another important topic, how to avoid scams. Research peptides can be fascinating. Unfortunately, the market is rife with potential scams and fraudulent sellers. We talked in our last video about what research peptides are and how they compare to pharmaceutical grade products, and in this video we're going to teach you how to avoid the scams. First, avoid unverified sellers. If a seller doesn't have a solid reputation or doesn't provide transparency about their lab testing and procedures, that's a huge red flag. Always check for reviews and verify their credentials. Seriously, the transparency in their testing is a massive issue. You should be able to quickly and easily find on the company's website a copy of their certificate of analysis, COA, and they should be performed by a third-party lab company. Now, COAs really deserve more of a discussion, so let's talk about them. A COA is a document indicating that a peptide company has tested the purity, at the very least, of the peptide. You want them to be done by a lab that isn't affiliated or in-house, so you're getting an unbiased opinion. So we're talking about a piece of paper, right? The labs analyze the product, they test them based on the parameters requested, and then they provide a document that we personally, Precision Peptide Co., post on the website. So what are you looking for on this COA? Well, first, the purity is the most important thing that I want to see. Precision Peptide Co., for example, only sells products that are 99% or more pure. Most companies don't follow that standard, and many don't even test them at all. COAs can also help identify peptides. So when a peptide company receives a large batch from their supplier, usually they're identified by cap color. That's it. You're one mistake away from using something totally different than you were sold if there's no COA. For example, maybe you think you're buying semaglutide and you got tirzepatide instead. The standard dosing is so different that if you dosed yourself with 15 milligrams of semaglutide thinking that it was tirzepatide, you could very easily end up in the hospital. So at the very least, the COA would help that peptide company correctly identify their products in case of a mix-up in cap color. You also want to check the date of the COA. If you're buying a product that has a COA that's 6, 12, 18 months old, and I've seen it on some of the most prominent, reputable companies' websites, I'd steer clear. You want the testing to be within 3 to 6 months max. Otherwise, in my opinion, it implies that you're not buying the same batch that testing represents. It's really unlikely that a company be selling stock that's 18 months old. It's more likely that they sent a batch for testing 18 months ago and they're just passing subsequent batches off as part of that same batch, and your product's not tested at all. Batch numbers are also important. I know this could be faked, but I like to make sure that there's a batch number on the COA and that there's a batch number on the vial. It's one more step that the peptide company goes through to imply that they're concerned with customer safety and product quality. Now, what I'm talking about there is on the actual COA, the peptide company has the opportunity to identify that batch of peptides. For example, it could be batched as SIM10-01. Well, then on each SIM10-01 vial would also be printed SIM10-01. And so yes, like I said, it could be faked, but it's like one more step that company is taking to ensure the end user that they care about their safety. You can authenticate a COA as well. A lot of people don't know this. Most COAs are going to have a unique key code on them, probably toward the bottom of the test. You can visit the lab's website, type in that code, and verify that the results are legitimate. Now, I will say, probably copy and paste it. A lot of these key codes can be difficult. They've got characters like zeros and O's that are kind of confusing. So if you copy and paste it and it doesn't show up on that company's website, there's a chance that COA is invalid or has been edited or doctored. If there is no key code, most of the time you can call or email the lab and they'll verify the results with you. So something that you should also consider when you're choosing a peptide company is the price. They all have about the same cost factors. It's running an e-commerce store, right? So if you see like 3 huge companies that sell for twice or more than the others, they're doing that because they can. That's the only reason. They don't have better products. Assuming all things are equal, we're both 99% pure, it's not better product. So they're just overcharging you. The opposite's true too. If you come across a supplier that sells packs of 10 for the same price that most sell 1 or 2 vials, they may be decent quality, but you don't know. And I've heard some real nightmare stories. You receive your product, it's going to take 6 weeks, and there's 0 customer service. You're going to end up with untested peptides with no labeling system and nobody to help you figure out how to use them. This one's obvious, but also beware sellers with no contact information, poor customer service. If something goes wrong, you need to be able to ask questions. You should be able to reach the seller easily. If they don't take returns, you want to buy from a company that wants you to be satisfied. And no, these products can't be reused, but if you're selling quality products, then returns aren't an issue, right?